Welcome back, movie buffers, to our next video. Today we'll be doing a new schlock cinema, which is a new playlist I've created for a lot of the various low-budget, schlocky action movies that I cover on this channel. And now it's time to revisit our old buddy Paul Kersey once again with the next Death Wish film, Death Wish 5. The Face of Death. The final Death Wish movie would be released to theaters in 1994. This would not only be the last film in the Death Wish franchise, but would also be the last theatrical movie that Charles Bronson would star in, up until his death in 2003. A very sad story, but the man did leave behind quite a legacy. I gotta say, first and foremost, before we even go into the movie, I've loved the hell out of every single one of these Death Wish movies so far. I know I didn't cover the first two on my channel. I have seen those though, and I did quite enjoy them. However, 3 and 4, which we did cover on this channel, were an absolute blast, and I had a wonderful time revisiting them, as well as reviewing them for you guys. Now, I'm really looking forward to this next movie, and I will say, it was a teensy bit of a letdown compared to the previous two, but I did still have a good time with it, and I would definitely recommend if you are a fan of this franchise and you've enjoyed it so far. If nothing else, it makes for a nice closer and a nice conclusion, both to the character of Paul Kersey and to the Death Wish franchise as a whole. But before we dive into the review, guys, don't forget to check out that Patreon. I'll post a link in the description below. There you'll find all kinds of exclusive content, and it is a wonderful way to support the channel. It's only $5 a month, guys, and it really does help me out and allows me to put out more fun content for you guys watching on here on YouTube as well. So definitely go check that out. If nothing else, drop a comment, let me know what you thought of this video, what you thought of the other Death Wish movies, and what movies you want to see me review on this channel going forward. I always love interacting with you guys and hearing your feedback. Make sure you subscribe too so you don't miss out on any more fun here on the Movie Buffer. So, how many creeps will Paul Kersey bag up this time, you may ask? Well, let's go ahead and check out Death Wish 5, The Face of Death. Now this movie's got me wondering if we're going to see an appearance from Warwick Davis at some point. Now you're probably wondering why we haven't seen the old Canon Pictures logo yet. And that's because at this point, the studio had actually gone bankrupt. As a matter of fact, it had been bankrupt since 1989. And the rights to Death Wish were passed over to 21st Century Films. Which, much like Canon Pictures, this studio was also known for producing a lot of low-budget and rather schlocky films. Although Death Wish 5 definitely did help them in terms of profit, as well as boosting their popularity. Death Wish, The Face of Death. Wait a minute, I thought this was The Face of Death. The movie would also have, once again, a new director, this time being directed by Alan A. Goldstein, who the only other movie I recognized from his filmography was 2001, A Space Travesty. The original script would see Paul Kersey battling terrorists in Alcatraz, which sounds very similar to the script we would see in the third Dirty Harry film, The Enforcer. However, this script ended up getting scrapped since they figured it would be far too expensive to film. This next entry takes place 7 years after the events of Death Wish 4. At this point, Paul Kersey has returned to New York City and is now in the Witness Protection Program, having assumed the name Paul Stewart. Paul gets invited by his girlfriend Olivia to a fashion show that she's going to be partaking in. Unfortunately for the both of them, this fashion show is run by some particularly shady characters. Uh-oh, my creep sense is tingling. Obviously I can't show this on YouTube, but for all you boob lovers out there, whew, you're gonna love this intro. Hey, any of you cats seen my Tommy gun anywhere? Well, I'll give this movie this much. It doesn't waste time with exposition, because immediately within 3 minutes of the film's opening, we're already being introduced to our villains. So here we meet Tommy O'Shea, a local mobster, who apparently is actually Olivia's ex-husband. Upon meeting his character, we immediately get to see what a creep he is as he barges his way into the women's dressing room and straight up starts sexually harassing Olivia. Actually, forget harassment, I'm pretty sure this is straight up assault right here. So, despite not being married anymore, O'Shea is a little bitch and gets really pissed off when he finds out that Olivia is dating another man now. Of course, when he bruises her wrist, Kersey is none too happy to find out about this.
Party's here. How'd this happen?
Chelsea's father's here.
He did this to you?
It's a way of life for him.
Where is he?
Kersey goes to confront O'Shea, but his henchman ends up pulling a revolver on him. Realizing he's outmatched, Kersey has no option but to retreat.
Idiots with guns make me nervous.
Well, definitely make sure you never move down to Florida, Paul. The next day, Kersey's associate, Detective Hector Vasquez, visits Paul's home. Here he informs Paul about Tommy O'Shea, telling him that he's been trying to throw the man behind bars for several years at this point, and wants Olivia to testify. Later that evening, Paul ends up proposing to Olivia over a romantic candlelight dinner. Aw, isn't that sweet? Well, I'd be excited for him, but knowing this franchise, Olivia's probably got about 5 minutes before she ends up impaled on a fence. Olivia excuses herself to go to the bathroom, but is followed and attacked by Tommy's associate, Freddie Flakes. Freddie bashes her head several times against a mirror, disfiguring her. He manages to escape, although Paul does get a good look at him. Later that night at the hospital, Paul is informed that even if Olivia were to get reconstructive surgery, she would still end up being disfigured the rest of her life. Seriously, this man has some of the worst luck with romantic interest I've ever seen in a movie. Lieutenant King warns Kersey not to go back to his old ways, saying that he has been working on this case for over 16 years. Of course, Kersey's not impressed, and I mean, can you blame him? This man's bagged more bodies than Jason fucking Voorhees at this point. I don't think you have much to worry about.
I mean, I watched this guy coming up through the Irish gangs. Now he's ruthless. Now he's going big time. He's a scumbag.
You know him, Vasquez?
Looks like Frederick Garrity.
AKA Freddie Flakes. He's got some sort of skin condition, causes bad dandruff.
Why, thank you, Officer Exposition. Also, I hate to pick on Mr. Flakes, but when your only two known qualities are having bad dandruff and cross-dressing as a woman, that doesn't really paint a super intimidating picture of you as a mob enforcer. Ah, the 90s. Back when a man working as a vigilante could afford a multi-million-dollar house. Is it just me, or is this starting to remind anyone of a Lifetime movie? Seriously, I feel like I'm watching a warped version of A Christmas Wedding. Actually, no, I take it back, because if that movie had starred Charles Bronson, it probably would have been a lot more interesting. In all seriousness though, compared to the previous movies, this one has been a teeny bit slow so far. But don't worry, because it's about to pick way up. Also, I think Paul may have gotten a little bit too excited looking at his wife's picture. I mean, just look at the mess he made on his jacket.
Idiots with guns make me nervous.
Fuck yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Kersey. Go show those creeps who's boss. So while the police get to bug in one of the associates of O'Shea in order to get some intel on him and hopefully bust him, Kersey gets to stalking O'Shea's goons. Alright, well let's see how the old bugging mission is going.
What about the laundry shipment coming this afternoon?
Laundry? Oh, you mean the clothes for the homeless shelter?
What?
You know, homeless people. People without homes.
Yeah, that didn't go so smooth.
Please, out of my way!
God damn! Well, shit, that sucks. So much for getting a confession. Get out of the way. But hey, if nothing else, it makes for a pretty impressive stunt.
Sorry guys, that's all we could do.
Well, gee, thanks, Dr. Buzzkill. What is up with these Death Wish movies and the doctors just having zero compassion for the victims' families? And better watch out, Paul. Judging by this POV shot, you're about to become possessed by a deadite.
What the hell are you doing there anyway? You're not thinking of going back to your old ways, are you?
Well, this is a Death Wish movie. I mean, if Paul Kersey decided to just randomly not kill somebody in a ridiculously over-the-top fashion, I think we'd all be pretty disappointed.
Tell me something. How long have you been trying to take these guys down?
16 years. These guys are pros. I mean, it's not like some gang of doped-out muggers.
16 years. Oh, it's a long time to be failing.
Olivia gets discharged from the hospital and Paula escorts her home. And I gotta say, considering that the doctor said earlier that she would likely be disfigured the rest of her life, she's actually looking pretty damn good. A knock at the door reveals a couple of detectives who claim to be there to protect Olivia and Paul, but surprise surprise, they're actually goons of O'Shea, and they proceed to blast Kersey's door open with an Uzi.
Chicky, let's go!
Peekaboo.
Gotta be up there! Son of a bitch!
Haha, take that, Joey Diaz. During all of the commotion, Olivia ends up getting shot in the back while running away and is killed on the spot. God damn, I mean, I would have something more dramatic to say, but at this point, this is just par for the course with these movies. Now, I know I made a joke in my last Death Wish video about Kersey thinking he's Batman, but it seems like here he really does. Unfortunately, due to lack of evidence, O'Shea ends up getting released and is able to walk free. But not if Mr. Vigilante has anything to say about it. Tommy seeks custody of his daughter and ends up showing up at Paul's place. Paul, of course, isn't going down without a fight and assaults Tommy, but his right-hand man, Sal, yeah. Could you pick a more stereotypical Italian name? Ends up knocking him out and leaving him unconscious.
I apologize, sir. Read it and weep.
She's coming with me.
Like hell she is.
But Kersey's had enough. After regaining consciousness, he grabs his trusty revolver and gets to killing. But first, a cup of tea. Kersey's first targets are the two henchmen that assaulted him. And oh, look, there they are. So what sort of inventive deaths are we gonna get this time? Are we gonna get another explosive wine bottle? Maybe a remote-controlled RC car with a bomb attached to it? Nope, just some good old-fashioned cannolis with some powdered cyanide on top. How's that cyanide tasting, Sal? Apparently pretty good, since it makes him start orgasming. Nah, I'm just playing. That's actually him choking on his own saliva as his throat swells up.
You got a problem?
At the funeral service, Tommy and Freddie Dandruff discuss security measures as well as what could have possibly killed their fellow mobster.
Protection, man. It's like being back in your mother's womb.
Well, Rule 34, that's all I'm gonna say. We also learn that O'Shea has quite a bit of pull when it comes to the New York Police Department, as one of the detectives we saw visiting Kersey in his home earlier is seen paying a little visit to O'Shea. Later that day, we see Kersey making a visit to a local hobby shop, and I wonder what he's gonna do with that soccer ball. After all, this man is a literal death machine, and we've already seen him kill somebody with a plank of wood, a wine bottle, and now a cannoli.
Birthday present?
A treat for someone special.
Next, we get to what is easily one of the best and most memorable moments in this entire movie, where Kersey infiltrates Freddy's high-tech security complex with a flippin' soccer ball that he has rigged with an explosive. Oh, and not just any soccer ball. This is also a remote-controlled soccer ball. Seriously, guys, this shit has to be seen to be believed.
Hey, Freddie. I'm gonna take care of your dandruff problem for you.
He also manages to turn Freddy into a dummy right before blowing him to smithereens. Holy shit, it's the real-life Annabelle. No, I'm serious, that's actually what the real-life doll looked like. Sorry to disappoint all of you Conjuring fans out there. Actually, this is just a distraction put in place by Vasquez, the corrupt cop we saw earlier, who reminds me of an overweight version of the Monopoly Man. Yeah, maybe you guys should drop the whole "aha, I got you" act and stop attacking this guy one at a time. You guys remember the corrupt cop from Death Wish 4, if you watched that review, and literally the exact same thing ended up happening. One of the cops that we saw visiting Kersey at his house earlier stumbles upon the scene, but rather than take Kersey into custody, having already known that Vasquez was corrupt and would likely have killed him as well too, just to cover his own ass, and to Paul's surprise, he ends up letting him go.
God of all consolation, in your unending love and mercy for us, you turn to children, please, my children, this is the house of the Lord. Put away those weapons.
Yeah, leave little Leonardo DiCaprio alone, okay, guys?
Show compassion to your people in their sorrow. Be our refuge and our strength, to lift us from the darkness of this grief to the peace and light. Your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. Where are you going, my children?
Not sure if I should blur out these mannequin tits, but I probably should since YouTube will likely have a bitch fit over it. Anywho, so O'Shea receives a note from some random kid, which is actually from Kersey, letting Tommy and his goons know that he's got a little surprise for him back at the showroom. Well, looks like the mobsters are finally starting to crack.
What do you mean, what is it? Look at me! My blood pressure's going through the goddamn roof, for Christ's sake!
Your blood pressure. Part of it's your diet. Every time you sit down to eat, you eat like you're going with an electric chair.
Rude, but you know, he's not 100% wrong exactly. Tommy comes up with the plan to use his daughter Chelsea as bait to lure Kersey into an ambush. He sends one of his henchmen to her school to pick her up, but little does he know, he's being followed by the Vigilante himself. We get a short but pretty decent little chase scene that takes place on the highway, involving some pretty decent stunt work and choreography. It all ends when Kersey witnesses Chelsea being escorted into a car by one of the other mobsters. They head on over to the shop with Kersey following closely behind, and this is pretty much where we get our final showdown for the film. Once inside, Paul uses a forklift as a distraction to trick the henchmen. They manage to destroy it, however Paul appears behind them like freaking Batman and shoots two of the henchmen dead. Oh, and one of them gets turned into a crispy French fry. Kersey then points his gun at the surviving henchman and makes him show him where Chelsea is. All the while continuously kicking him in the ass for some reason. You're gonna replace my wife.
Mother, Angel? No.
I was joking, Paul.
What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna help you remember. Hold that. Hold it!
You don't know nothing. Come on, Kersey.
Okay, at this point I'm convinced this man is just trolling and doesn't even care about his daughter. He could have literally just held this guy at gunpoint, had him walk his way over to where she was being held, shot Tommy and the rest of the goons, and then gotten out of there. Honestly, I think this man just enjoys killing so much.
Where's the girl?
He's upstairs in the big room.
Anybody with her?
Solid, Tommy.
And this just escalates and goes on and on. I mean, normally I'd complain about a scene being this drawn out, but I'm genuinely curious and excited to see what's going to happen next and where this is going to go. Chelsea managed to escape Tommy, but ends up running right into the other henchman. Nice going, dumbass.
Kersey, I'm unarmed. I have no gun. Right? You wouldn't shoot an unarmed man, would you? Would you? Kersey?
Honestly, you kinda deserved that one, buddy. O'Shea manages to catch up to Chelsea, but is ambushed and tripped by Kersey. Okay, now you're just being petty. Chelsea manages to escape outside where Lieutenant King and the rest of the police are waiting. And Kersey gives O'Shea a taste of his own medicine, using his own words against him.
Guns make you nervous?
You want me to beg you, son of a bitch?
Please. Please!
No! Free scumbag! Bronson!
Nice going, dumb. You know what? Forget it.
Wait! Listen. Whatever you want, whatever you need. I don't need anything. But you need a bath.
And give him a bath he does. An acid bath, as a matter of fact, as he falls right into a lineman pool and disintegrates before our very eyes. It's not only a pretty fitting death to such a scumbag of a villain, but also a very unique one, and not one I can say that I've ever seen done before in another film. So, happy ending. O'Shea dies, Lieutenant King lives despite being shot in the arm, and Chelsea and Paul are reunited. And Paul takes this as a lesson to never marry or get romantically involved with a woman again. Or at least he should. God, I freaking love these movies. Honestly, I am so happy I decided to rewatch these. I had only seen a couple of these movies growing up. Others I had only seen snippets of here and there, and it was a real treat to revisit this franchise and see each movie in chronological order in its entirety. Now, granted, Death Wish 5 is probably my least favorite, or at least the least impressive of the Death Wish movies, but it is by no means a bad film. It just so happens that those others are a little bit more entertaining, and left me feeling fulfilled and satisfied. The film's villains and premise do feel a little played out, and maybe not the most interesting. I know I gave the guy in Death Wish 4 a little bit of a hard time, but honestly, he makes for a far more interesting villain than O'Shea's character does. It's not that the bad guys in this movie aren't intimidating at all. However, the whole mob thing has been so overdone, I felt like I was watching an episode of The Sopranos at times. It just seemed to me like the writers and director could have picked a far more interesting premise, and they kind of just dropped the ball by going with, again, another mafia mob villain plot. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it just kind of felt a tad bit lazy in terms of writing. It was also a little hard to get invested in the subplot involving his daughter, or even his wife for that matter, getting killed. I just felt like we didn't really spend enough time with them, especially the daughter, to really get all that deeply invested. The film is not without its positives, though. Charles Bronson is great as always, as Paul Kersey, playing that sort of Clint Eastwood-like energy where he's very stoic and strong and a man of few words, but his actions speak louder than anything else. And Bronson definitely has a presence to where I could only see him playing this character. The action sequences, while low-key and not anything extravagant, are still rather well done with some impressive stunts and some nice blood squibs and practical explosions. We also get some pretty inventive and creative death scenes with some nice quips here and there from Bronson. Overall, Death Wish 5 makes for a fun and entertaining, although slightly underwhelming action movie. It does, however, make a nice finale to the franchise and to the character of Paul Kersey. I would still watch it, though I do put it lower on the totem pole than the rest of the series. It does make me a little sad knowing that this was the last Death Wish movie. Not only that, but the last theatrical film that Charles Bronson would ever star in up until his death 10 years later. But one thing's for sure, this man will definitely go down in history as one of the ultimate badasses of all time. So here's to Mr. Vigilante. Well guys, that's a wrap on this episode. Go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed this video, or a dislike if you didn't. And I will see you in the next one. Ciao for now.